Welcome to Grand Blanc Watchdogs podcast, now being broadcast on Metro Flint News Talk Radio. Your host, Lonnie Adkins.
And Monica Shapiro.
Okay, Monica, so let's talk about this recall.
Let's. You know why?
Because it's important.
No, well, that too. But it starts, the active petitions circulating amongst our neighbors to make this happen starts May 2nd. Saturday, May 2nd. If you want us in your neighborhood, let us know on petitions@gbrecall.com or give us a call at our phone number, 815-4RECALL, which is known as 815-473-2255.
So let's keep people amped up about this. I mean, what?
Yes. Anthony Hudson, love him or, have problems with him, he said it straight. He said, look, this has been initiated, this recall's been initiated, and we'll be watching you. Act better. Don't be who you were before. And it just got worse. They doubled down in every way, in every single way, Lonnie.
Yes, it is crazy. It's crazy.
They were the worst they've ever been in the months since the recall. The worst. In the months since I said that, and they thought they got rid of me by saying I was a sore loser and a failed politician and those sorts of things, which is laughable to me, Lonnie.
Well, it's the sheer arrogance. I mean, it's just mind-blowing.
Crazy. What did Dennis Liimatta do? He got exposed for firing Chief Jent, thinking he could just kind of sneakily get rid of this guy that was overshadowing him and giving him a hard time about needing more staffing. He wanted him gone. And he thought he could just do it like he did everything else. Present it to the board. He's on administrative leave. The board needs to approve to have him terminated. That's how he thought it was going to go. And, there was immediate outcry. And it didn't go that way. And a bunch of people came up and openly accused Dennis of being what he is, which is a looter of our township and an exploiter. And so anyway, we did that. The crowds came out and said those things, and then a lot of people at that time called for recall. So I figured out, how do you do it? I mean, they want it. They seem to want it. How do you get it done? So I figured that out, and it took a few times, Grand Blanc Uncensored. Yes, it did. It took me 3 tries to get the language so that we could pass a petition.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's important to get these things right, and we're giving, especially you're giving the residents.
Go back to why, Lonnie. Let's enumerate what they've done in the months since. Let's enumerate. Let's see. Where do we begin?
The fire, obviously, we've touched on that, and then
we can touch on it a little more, because since the recall, since all those people came and demanded that they give him what he needs, since I pointed out that it was only 1.6% of the budget to give him 4 more guys, since the church fire happened and they were understaffed for it, let's announce that. It's on the 911 tapes. They needed more guys. And Jent had warned them. And Dennis immediately saw it as a public relations problem and hired a bunch of public relations people to help them put a spin on this, a positive spin on what he tried to pull against this honest, honorable, excellent firefighter who had been heroic. It's a little bit, and who knows a lot about fire, Lonnie. So they didn't start listening to him. They didn't try to figure out what he wanted. All they did was line up against him and say all reasons why none of what he wanted could possibly happen. And much of it was so reasonable. And they just had their backs up against him. And they decided they would hire a consultant. They had many meetings. They created a task force without Jent on it. And they had many meetings, Bennett and Robertson and Liimatta, about what needed to be done in the fire department. What do they know? They should have been following the lead of this excellent man. How in the world he got past them? I think that Dennis's eyes just lit up because he was such a big shot in the firefighting world, and we landed him. But boy, oh boy, he had his hands full when he came on, because this is an honest, knowledgeable man. They doubled down, and they had meeting after meeting, and Scott would say this and Scott would say that. We have a lot of people, and we're hoping that we've been talking with other leaders of other communities. I mean, when have they ever run into a burning building? These guys know, they're very well trained. It's admirable, the whole training system. Dennis is getting in there and mucking around with it. This guy knows how to build a good, solid department that defends the town. And Dennis should stand back and give him these minimal shifts in budget that he's asking for. But no, that's not what happened. That's why I posted that video, because there was Scott doing 60 seconds with Scott Bennett. Was the whole first half of the meeting was Jent's report, Jent's ideas about the future. His whole presentation was like 20 to 30 minutes. The beginning of the meeting was that, and Scott didn't mention it in that 60-minute recap. And now, not only did he not mention it, but he ignored it. It was as if it never happened. And it was a very good presentation, and it was just what you want from your department head, and you give them what they basically need and let them do their thing.
Instead, we have this lawsuit. Now, I had heard through various back channels, more than one, that Dennis sat down with Jent and said, look, you cannot promote one of the part-time guys to this full-time position. It has to be an outside guy. And Jent reluctantly agreed to that crazy thing, even though Liimatta had told the board that it would be posted externally, but it would certainly be open to the inside people. In private, he said no inside person. And Jent kind of thought, well, I'll find a guy that's at least compatible with my guys and that understands what we're trying to do here. And that's about the best. And he had to tell the guys, the part-time guys who were lined up waiting for a possible promotion to a full-time position, especially in a sort of a all guys together, pull together emergency service. Promoting from it within is an excellent way to promote employee retention, to get people to want to take on those part-time jobs, because they may eventually lead to a full-time job. There was no reason to even post it outside unless there's some kind of fairness rule about civil service jobs. Regardless, the obvious move was to promote from within. A good personnel manager would certainly have left it to the department head to find the ideal guy for the one position that the firefighters themselves came up with. That wasn't anything Scott or Dennis did. The firefighters themselves, at the 11th hour before that budget was passed, realigned spending so that without costing a penny, they figured out a way to fund a full-time guy by combining two part-time openings. He was actually told in no uncertain terms by Dennis, you can't promote from within. And why? Well, I leave it to the four firefighters who did the lawsuit. What did they say was the reason for the lawsuit? The reason was firefighters quite logically assumed that it was retaliation for them supporting their chief and his good ideas. And that happened, folks, well after the recall was initiated. Our own firefighters were compelled to sue our township board and this guy Liimatta that really needs to go. Okay, we've got to take a break. When we come back, the ambulance problem, the other lawsuit, Warwick bringing them a $5 million check and them refusing, the fact that the board can't be swayed. You'll find that out, the people that all came out about the road diet. Let's see where that takes us. And of course, the drains, the shrug. All right, so we're back. Welcome back to Grand Blanc Watchdogs. Monica Shapiro and Lonnie Adkins. We're talking about recall and why. And since October 28th, nothing has changed. Nothing has gotten better as far as our fire protective services. There's just been a lot of meetings, a consultant is supposed to be hired soon. A PR firm has been hired. All the things that Anthony Hudson talked about, and they're not listening to the one expert they do have, which is Chief Jent. And not only that, they tied his hands and tried to keep him from promoting from within, which brought on this lawsuit with the firefighters. But we also have, don't forget, our original lawsuit, which was over the cover-up. Anna Matson brought a lawsuit against our stellar clerk's department, who tried to charge $160,000 for a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request. It's an unheard of amount. It made national news. And so we're dealing with that lawsuit. We've got 2 lawsuits now against our board and our supervisor that we're defending, that we're spending legal fees on.
And every time Mr. Bennett wants to turn something good away, he says, well, we could be vulnerable to lawsuits, and, that costs the taxpayers money when you have to defend against lawsuits. I'm protecting the taxpayers. Excuse me? Where have the lawsuits come from? Your actions.
Right.
Your actions. And then you can focus on Mr. Robertson, who runs the clerk's department with a very lax hand. They don't ask much of him, and he's content to stand back and let Lynn Henry take all the awards just so he can be in office. He no longer handles the special assessment district, so it's all in the hands of the clunky DBW that doesn't know anything about smoothly moving paperwork through channels. That's what you hope that the clerk's department will do for you. But it's been nothing but holdups. That's ongoing, and that's another thing they did since, and perhaps because of the threat of recall, which is denied Warwick Hills its $5 million paving project. They came to the township and said, here's $5 million. We know that the Warwick roads look terrible. We don't want to have it anymore. We've reluctantly agreed that we can somehow scrape up the money between us to do it. And we trudged around and got all those signatures signed. It's we because it's my neighborhood. But what they did, folks, was Warwick came in with their fully signed signatures. And if you ever try to do this in your neighborhood, it's 120 hours of volunteer work to get it done. So they're not paying the community for all this work they put in. And we come in having satisfied that, done all that unpaid work, while the board just sits there and makes whatever they make, $17,000 a year. It's ridiculous. And so we go around, we get it, and we finally persuade our reluctant neighbors to take on this tax. It's not a nice thing to have to do. And they turned us down. They moved heaven and earth to turn away $5 million of free money to do this infrastructure project. They turned that down from us to show us their power. And the trouble was, the way it was they didn't understand the statute. They hadn't read the statute, and all they had to beat us with was the statute. But they hadn't read it. They didn't know. And Lynn Henry, the great Lynn Henry, didn't know the difference between a petition to pay the town money and a petition to get on the ballot or recall. an election petition. This is a different kind of petition. This is just showing that the neighbors want this. And there's all kinds of latitude for deadlines and corrections to be made after the fact. And she was holding it over our heads like it was the law. But she didn't know the law. She didn't know it. And neither did the attorney. They were just instructed to stop this thing, and they went about figuring out how they could do that. And the whole meeting was us saying, well, couldn't you initiate the special assessment district? Oh, no, I've never heard of that, said the lawyer.
He wasn't familiar with that. And guess what? That's the first line of the statute. That was what the statute was designed for, to enable townships to impose special assessment districts on neighborhoods, on areas where improvements were needed. There's a threshold. If 20% of the people in the neighborhood think that it shouldn't be done and that it's an unfair burden, they can pass a petition. 20%. In our neighborhood, it would have been 40 people would have had to show up at the township and say, we've got this petition, we're against it. Instead, the rest of us that knew it had to be done, that wanted it to be done, had to circulate over 50% throughout our neighborhood to get them to say yes. It's it's all backwards, and it's unfortunate, and they ask a lot of neighborhoods to get this done.
So, the people really need to see, how did we get to a point where we allowed our local governments to shift responsibility of roads, local streets, back onto the residents?
Yes.
What happened 30, 40 years ago when subs went in? I mean, what happened? The roads were just done. I don't know where that shift was allowed to happen.
They're county owned. They make a big deal about how you don't own the road in your subdivision. Now we're all treated like our roads are private roads. And we have to have homeowners associations to make things happen. They are not private roads. They are county roads. How did it ever happen that county isn't taking care of their roads? We're lucky. We're supposed to be lucky that our local streets are county owned, and they've dropped the ball.
All right, let's talk road diet.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, that gets me to act better, do better, be better now that you are under threat of recall, right? That was the message from Mr. Hudson. And this road diet, this project on Fenton Road, is a perfect example of an overarching reason why I want them recalled. They did not take advantage of the Grand Blanc Road widening to do an excellent project, which would have united all those residents in the apartments to Bicentennial Park. It would have been great for that apartment complex. Short-sighted owner of the Grand didn't see it, but anyway, now on Fenton Road. Now, one of the things I kept running on was that $57 million of road work had been done in Grand Blanc Township. All the while they were saying, we don't get road funding. $57 million of state and federal money was spent on our roads, and we were supposed to kind of have a voice in those projects. And Scott Bennett was supposed to be our voice. In fact, he's the chair at Roads and Bridges. He's sitting over. Yes. And so look what happens. They neglect to add access on that obvious Bicentennial Park apartment complex project. And now with Fenton Road, shall I delve into what's wrong with the road diet idea? Because everybody's against it. And what Scott's thinking is, see, they don't want the vision of the grid. They don't want bicycles in traffic. The people don't want that. No, the people don't want their driving to be hampered. Unfettered, good driving is nice. We all like it, that our roads are wide enough and speedy enough that we can, get around this square of the township efficiently. We until recently, we really didn't have any traffic problems. It was very nice. And so we don't want to interfere with that. And here they are saying, oh, you seem to want, I had made some noise about that Fenton Road project. Make this a complete streets project. And in fact, I don't want to get too deep into it because it's interesting to me, but it's not interesting to the public. The public doesn't want that road cut back. They know full well people don't want it, and they came out to a meeting to say they don't want a road diet there. And you know what they're going to do? They'll do one of two things. They'll shrug and give us the road diet because it was offered by the county. And
Ah, the
it's the
shrug.
wrong approach.
The
It's
shrug. Yes.
yes. Or that, yeah, we can't stop it. The county decides these things, they'll say. It's not our business. The county decides. No, it's our town, and all this state money is coming in to do this project, and the state is in favor of accessible road design and Vision Zero road planning. And narrowing all Genesee County has on the books is road diets. That's all they have when it comes to accessibility. The only tactic they have is road diets. Meanwhile, we're widening roads all over the county. We're widening, 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 and those are exempt from trying to get it keep it civilized so people can also cycle there. That doesn't make sense. And that's the county policy. And it's wrong. Wrong. And Bennett has a voice to say so. And it would imagine Fenton Road with 5 lanes, which it should have, because you know what they're basing it on is that the current traffic volume is 14,000, and the before you hit Hill Road, and then after Hill Road, it goes up to 18,000. Excuse me, all that development they're doing all along Baldwin, you don't think traffic volumes are immediately going to go up to 18, and if not more? So you're going to have to take it all down, the stuff you put in, the optimistic bike lane and sidewalk. That'll all have to go away, and it'll be swallowed up by the 5 lane that it should have been. Fenton Road does need a center lane. It needs to be 5 lanes. It's got a lot of volume thanks to all the stuff they're doing on Baldwin Road. I don't approve of that. I think it was bad idea for the township, but it's there, and we're going to have increased traffic any minute. And these guys are sitting back on their hands and saying, a road diet will be traffic calming, less accidents. Traffic calming is often code for traffic stopping, stop and go traffic, being stuck, waiting, calmly waiting, and not hitting people on bikes. That's why people are anti-bike lane, because it hampers their driving. And why should it? This is the driving state. Make your bike and pedestrian infrastructure so it can safely coexist with free car driving. There's no reason it can't. The designs are there. So Scott Bennett is the head of this roads and bridges, and that's what he should be asking them to do. He's the one who tells row engineering what to design. You design that. You say, I need 5 lanes and I need access on both sides. Design that. And then I'll go to bat for it at the state level. That's what he needs to do whenever a project like this comes through. And he won't do it on Fenton Road, and he needs to get out so somebody smart like me could come in and make that happen. And then we start working on this infrastructure drain thing. I mean, this is where his attention should be, not chasing after developers, courting developers for this piece of land he somehow has control over at the south end of town, where the type of development he's doing is not what we want. It's all messed up, but you can't redo the past. He's been in, he's done this stuff, but he should get out before the Fenton Road thing happens, because look at what happened. You all came out. You said you didn't want a road diet, and you're right. You don't want a road diet on Fenton Road, but they can't be swayed. And that's what Lonnie and I are always saying. They can't be swayed. You come out, you, the residents who pay your taxes, come out and say, we don't want this. We have a petition. Listen to us. And they say their hands are tied. Oh, they have to. They do it anyway. The county advises them to do it. Don't listen to the county. The county's wrong on this. Listen to traffic experts and Engineers. Anyway, that's my rant on the road diet, folks. That's another thing they did. Not listen to you when you came out saying you don't want a road diet.
Okay, we will be right back. Pat?
No. Recap what we were talking about. We're talking about the township, why it's bad, why these guys need to be recalled, and we're going to talk more about how it's going to happen. There, I
Okay.
did the recap, Lonnie, because you weren't paying attention when I was ranting. All right, so we'll be right back with more. And we're back.
Okay, so since the papers were filed for the recall, what has this board done to continue to warrant this process?
Well, I I harked back to it in the last segment. Anthony Hudson presented them with a challenge. He said, "You're under threat of recall, and you better act better. Don't be doing this. Don't have to hire a PR firm. Don't have to pay your lawyers hours and hours to defend a FOIA request. Don't be those people."
So they got worse.
They
So they
got
got
worse.
worse.
They did more.
They did
And
more.
also in his thing, he said, "You respect Chief Jent. Give him what he needs. He's protecting our community. Our community safety should be first with you guys." And and not only did he double down in his disrespect and disregard for Mr. Gent, he introduced a new wrinkle to his lack of caring about our local safety, which was this ridiculous ambulance thing. So we got to that. That was since the recall. They were under threat of recall and they didn't act better. And then the floods, the big floods. They know that people are watching them and saying, "Are you our leaders? Should we keep you?" And after his performance during the floods, I say, no, we shouldn't. We should not keep him. He is not fighting for you. He doesn't care. When something major like this 87-year-old failing storm drain infrastructure comes his way, he shrugs. He says, the homeowners can't afford it. No, the homeowners can't afford it. Get yourself some funding. Get out there and make it happen, Mr. Supervisor. You've got all kinds of power to, if not to, as I said, design our future roads. He had so many chances to design our roads in a brilliant way. So much money was coming our way. So much state policy was in favor of accessibility on roads. He let that all happen. And this infrastructure thing, this major piece of local infrastructure that we should all be working to fix as a township, and our taxes should absolutely be going for that. The money we spend, they'll have to do something legal to make sure that a good portion of it goes to that. Maybe we negotiate with the county and pay them less, because they're always squawking about how much we have to send to the county, and the county's always happy because they get so much money from Grand Blanc Township.
Well, it might be time to renegotiate those agreements.
Absolutely. There's lots of. He's not a proactive supervisor. He's much more interested in currying favor with that Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and that, he wants to be in with those guys. I guess. I think that's what motivates Dennis. I don't know. But at any rate, something major. There was video of Anthony Hudson waist deep in water in people's neighborhoods, helping tow their car out of, we don't have the Mississippi breaching the, we have a little creek that overflowed, and we are built on wetlands. There's ways to fix it. And they cost too much. Well, you know what? It can be done here. It's hard to do it in places where the Mississippi is going to breach the dams.
You could say, the funny thing is they never say it costs too much when they build a new building.
I know.
Or
million
they, or
of debt for that DPW
are
thing.
they,
Now the DPW. And what do? They farm out the mowing. It's not for the working DPW guys. It's for this ever increasing bureaucratic thing that Dennis has set up around the DPW. It should be, you know what he should be doing in the DPW? He should be getting someone in that knows how to build drains and training those guys and certifying those guys and renting heavy equipment to do the drains ourselves. But we've got a big fancy building with desk workers. The 12 guys in the DPW are not where their focus is. They could be doing meaningful work around this community. And Dennis made it top heavy with this glamorous building. Very bad. And that was $19 million bond. $19 million would have done 2 of the storm drain districts that we're talking about. Bond for that. And don't raise our fees and don't raise our taxes. Put us in hock for that. Awful, awful priorities. And the things are there and the debt is there, but you still need people to start fighting in the right direction. This can't go on. The storm drain, the lack of leadership, the lack of urgency. So, yeah, go ahead. What else? What else? Oh, how many people are we trying to recall, Lonnie?
yes, so give us the details on that.
If everybody wanted to sign 5 times, we could make the whole board go away, except for Sarah Hugo, who stood up to them and voted no on the budget. But and also Michelle
One time.
Ryder. Listen,
One
don't laugh
time.
at that. That was hard for her. Come on. She was in the club and then she had to go out of the club.
God, you protect her so much. Well,
think
then stop worshiping her, or I'm not going to continue this.
All right.
It's crazy to me.
Sarah, if you're listening to this, you see how much I'm in your corner? I have to be. I can't be like
Look,
everybody on the board has to go. But
don't be afraid to stand up. She ran on special assessment districts was a big part because she collected signatures to redo her roads before she got on the board.
So she knew what it was and she wanted to help. So, yes.
But now fast forward where we are.
Yes.
Step up and do what you said you were going to do.
Help Warwick get their special assessment district passed.
Monica, I throw them all in together.
All right. Well,
I know
let's back off from that. Lonnie?
Who are we recalling?
Yes.
Let's go back to that.
Okay. There are 7 board members, right? 2 of them are exempt from the recall. One, Sarah Hugo, because she voted no on the budget. That's what the language says, that they voted yes in lockstep on that budget. That's what the language says. And it is a true microcosm of all things that are wrong that we've been discussing here. But to get them, you have to find something they voted on. And that's what they voted on that was bad. The unquestioned Dennis budget is a bad thing. They've never, ever made a peep to differ from what he's presented as the budget. It's quite shocking. That's why there's so much wasteful spending in the wrong directions, because they just have rubber stamped his financial management. We've gone on a lot about his personnel management, but his financial management is also bad. The fact that they passed the budget without ever changing a line of it from the day it was presented to them in August is shocking. And so when it happened, one person voted no and the other ones voted yes. And the ones that voted yes are out, except for the Damon, who was new to the board and had to run for election anyway. And then he resigned. And now there's a new lady in there who will have to run for election anyway. So there's 5 people that we have petitions to do. But everyone has said to me, you can't expect people to sign 5 petitions.
So it comes down to the leadership, right?
Yes.
It's important to replace the leadership,
Scott
just like
has
in a
to go
company.
because everything in him is protecting Dennis and admiring Dennis and promoting Dennis and giving Dennis a inviolable contract till as long as he wants. Basically what he said he was assured of, they put in writing. You will always have a job. If we fire you without cause, you're entitled to a full year of severance pay. It's a very ridiculous contract. It gives them all kinds of days off. And, oh, let's just get back. What have they done since under threat of recall? They approved $120,000 for the assistant to Dennis Liimatta. So we're paying him, yes, his assistant. And he says, well, back in 2023, this board agreed that I needed an assistant because we're finding that the duties that I had were, so time consuming, and that he didn't have time to do all the stuff he needed to do. It was such a big job that he needs $120,000 assistant to take a lot of the load off. And Lonnie, he gets a lot of time off. He gets a paid car, and now a $125,000 assistant. And what is he doing with all that free time?
He's running a lucrative municipal consultancy. He travels all over the state, advising other communities on how they can overpay their municipal managers and how that manager can muck up their public safety and their personnel matters, and all the ways they don't have to say yes to pesky residents.
So let me recap the cost here. So when Scott is doing his 60 seconds and crying poor,
Yes.
we've hired a PR, we've hired consultants, we've grown the code enforcement department,
Right.
we've hired an administrative assistant. I mean, where am I missing it? Where am I missing this
and
at?
we hired a new person to run the computerized sewer examination system. That's a whole new job. Since they spent $4 million on a consultant group to install the new sewer meters. I mean, the money is flowing in the sewer department. We got to figure out a way to make some of that flow go into the storm drain department, folks, and it can be done. There's a lot of money there, and instead of doubling down on what we're paying for sewer capacity, that's arguable if we need it, we should be examining legal ways to make those fees also cover storm drain. That was the big hang up that Mr. Wright was at pains to keep emphasizing. The money is for sewer and for water. It is not for storm drains. There is no money for storm drains. Fees don't cover storm drains. And okay, but why not? Storm drains are clearly an infrastructure problem. The town is affected by it. And some municipalities have done that. It's a fight, it's complicated, you need a good lawyer that reads the stuff, but it has been done, it could be done, it should be done, we should be the leader in figuring this out. Why are we the leader in what? Factories at the south end of town? This awful technology village is just going to think about what it's going to mean. Traffic, substandard, rinky-dink townhouses designed on the cheap. Awful stuff. It'll just be a beginner neighborhood, and as soon as they grow up, they'll flee, the people that live in there, I think. I don't know. It seems like a very misbegotten notion. And that we're stuck with that. They're putting in the roads now.
I'm shocked at the political makeup of this board too. I mean, this is, when we're talking recall, these are partisan seats. And I know Scott and Dave, as Republicans,
Yes.
have said in the past how conservative they are. And under their watch, they've done all the things that conservatives don't stand for.
Yes.
They've increased the size of the government. They've
Yes.
raised taxes. Those are like the big two from a Republican conservative party. Those are like the big two things, right?
And they sought government handouts, and they supported. They got the endorsement of the unions. They dove in with both feet to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation stuff, and that's
Now
controversial.
Now I want to beat up the Democrats a little bit that are on the recall as well. So now the Democrats, I don't know all of their platform, but I know one is this corporate welfare. Well, they don't have a problem giving it away right now.
No, they don't.
So I'm just saying, people, when you think of the recall,
They're
these
giving
are
corporate
partisan seats.
welfare at the local level.
Correct. So, even though these are partisan seats, they're all running on one agenda, just an agenda they're being told to vote for.
Right.
So, I mean, just think it
They
through.
has nothing to do with what we might or might not want as a community. How we might or might not, we sometimes, like you said in the last bit, the public does come to meetings and they try and they never do what they ask ever. It's as if all they do is gang up and try to figure out, as we've said time and time again, how to say no. But to circle back to the recall, you can't be recalling them for everything. But man, Anthony Hudson said it. We'll be watching you. Act better.
And they haven't. So there you have it.
So back to how many petitions are we circulating? We'll come to your door with all 5. If you want to sign them all, have at it. But the 2 that have to go to rebalance the board so that there's some independent thinking and make a possible 4-3 on some of the crucial votes, we need to get rid of Mr. Bennett and Mr. Robertson. So those 2 you've got to sign, 2 petitions to balance our board, bring back the voice of the people, and make some change in Grand Blanc Township that's been needed for years.
We're back. What'd we talk about in the last one, Lonnie?
Yeah, so we're back. We were hitting on the recall, but we wanted to expand on that a little more to keep driving it home. Who's being recalled? What are the date? What's the date again? Let's keep that in the front and center there. So,
all right.
What are we doing?
But what we covered and what we will continue to cover is all the things they've done wrong under threat of recall. And if that doesn't give them some pause, they've got to go.
And it hasn't.
It hasn't.
But maybe, and it'll be a day late, $1 short after the signatures are collected and they're actually officially going to be on the ballot to recall.
Right.
Then maybe they'll start doing maybe.
No, when they're under threat of recall, they'll be scrambling around and trying to get stuff done that ties our hands for the future. Because that's what they were doing before the election last time. They began to be afraid that I might actually win. And so that's when Dennis got his rock solid bulletproof contract. That's when they made sure to get the debt taken on for the fire station before people kind of woke up and knew it was a debt. They rammed that sewer thing in August, taking on that amount of debt. The people were so asleep that it didn't even register that happened. And nobody, unlike the people who got wind of the road diet, people didn't come out and protest that. But the road diet really, really hit people where they live. And if they care enough to come out like that, definitely the road commission and the township have to listen.
They won't. That's the part I don't understand.
So what we were talking about last time is all 5 of them, except for, that's where we got off the track. All 5 of them, except for Sarah Hugo, voted for the budget. So all 5 of them were vulnerable to recall because that's the language. But
right.
The focus has to be on Scott because he protects Dennis, and certainly on Robertson because he's the one
the FOIA.
The FOIA. He's the cover-up guy. He's the one that engineered, or under his watch, Lynn Henry was enabled to engineer the defeat of Warwick in their road project. Although, they did everything wrong and against the rules, and I'm sure we will prevail. Robertson has to go because he's made a mess of the clerk's department if you want anything done in Grand Blanc Township. And he's made us vulnerable to lawsuits. You said it last time. Anybody who's made us vulnerable to a lawsuit ought to go. So that's, Scott, Dennis, and we can't get rid of Dennis if we don't have a majority on the board. There's rumors that there's at least one other board member who's restive. So that would be 3 people on the board and 2 people coming in. It would be a 5-2 majority, and that would be excellent. So just getting rid of those 2 is worth trying. We need a functioning clerk, and we need we need leadership. We need real leadership. We certainly don't have that now. So
And I like this one too. I want to go back to the partisan thing just for a second,
okay,
because Republicans, now I beat them up equally, but Republicans, the other thing, now I touched on the last episode about one of the pillars is, they say shrink the size of government, don't raise taxes. Well,
Yeah.
they've increased the government, raised taxes. But you know what else they say? Especially Robertson, they say, oh, Republicans, we're transparent. We believe in transparency. And then you charge $100,000 for FOIA. Dave, come on.
They're cover-up
Come on,
people.
Dave.
Listen, they made us FOIA for what was wrong with our petitions in the Warwick subdivision. We had a book of 100 signatures, 110 or however many we had to get, and they claimed there were things wrong in the book, and we are very lucky in Warwick that we have such people running the homeowners association. Ryan's good too. And it's a great thing that we have. We're lucky. But even with our luck, we couldn't get it done because Ms. Henry was aligned against us. And it's the cover-up thing. FOIA this, FOIA that. And like I said in the last, when you do FOIA, you see some pretty hairy.
So, all right. So we need to get a couple of them out of there at a minimum to
Yes.
shift the balance.
But you know what? We'll bring the other petitions. If there's somebody on the board that you think really particularly needs to go, have at it. We'll bring all the petitions. You can sign as many as you want. But the key people that have to go are Scott and Robertson. And we'll be out there, and you can call and get multiple petitions if you know your neighbors are in favor. There's a lot we can do, and it's petitions@gbrecall.com or this phone number we have, 815-4-RECALL, which is 473-2255. But 815-4-RECALL, leave a message, tell us. That one will be on the door cards we're leaving. So if we came that day and you just missed us, you can call us and we'll come back. So that's a cool thing. But we'll be having signing events. What else, Lonnie? How else are we going to get signatures? How many do we need? Do you know? You don't know. We need
You told me
4,714. But
4714. But you want to go over that, right?
a lot over. That's why we say
over.
6,000. 6,000, 60 days. That's 100 signatures a day. And at the end, the last day that the signatures will be valid, if we start May 2nd, is July 2nd. It'll be over July 2nd.
Yep. So you're providing the community a vehicle, a way to correct course.
Yes.
So.
And I think we've made quite a number of points today about why that needs to happen. Okay, so let's talk quickly. School millage. If you haven't voted already, voting day is actually after next week's show, but so we don't have to rush it, but people are voting now. And just remember, it's a chance to lower your taxes, and that's a good thing. And the schools are sort of sinking and they're not really addressing academics. It's pretty black and white. And they didn't talk about not correcting course. I made that very point. And they could have come out and said, it's people are worried about our academic slide, and these are things we're proposing that will help that. They didn't do that. So high school is number 8. One of the elementary schools is in the 25th percentile in the state for reading and math and the basics. And we're just going to shovel more money at the school. I don't think that's a good idea at this point. It's no longer what brings people to the community, let's say. So they'll have to struggle along for a while. And supposedly they have lots of money because he invested the money we've given them in the past. So there's money in there. They can do what they need to do. And they have a whole separate millage for maintenance anyway. So as much as I support schools in theory, they need to do better. So as far as millages go, my husband's stomping around the house and saying, "I'm voting no on every millage that ever ever comes my way." Our base tax rate is high enough. Everybody needs to stop getting these add-ons and then just not being fiscally responsible. So
You
there's
know,
lots of
I
stuff that
don't.
needs to be done all over the place, but you can vote no on millages, even school millages, especially when we have that big stadium that's sitting there that a lot of people are a lot of people love it and think it's great. And our football program and our band program thank us for it. So it's quite impressive. So maybe it'll turn out to be a great thing for the town. But anyway, it's big and it's flashy and we need the basics.
Well, we're more than just football, so we need to get back to academics.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, and it's the people who have the power of the purse, and you got to ask yourself, this is not the grand blanket was 15 years ago in certain areas like school performance, maybe your tax rates, maybe development, but you got to ask yourself each time a millage comes your way, what am I getting? Am I paying for the right amount of government that I want or the right
Yeah.
amount of services?
Right.
So,
All right. I think that's our show for this week, Lonnie.
yes. So
I
tune
think
in
we're
next
done.
week. We'll have some more. Yeah, we'll have more good topics next week.
Might be the same stuff because once we get going, we keep going.